got an estimate from Complete Streets, but of $191,000, but the Complete Streets estimate is not detailed enough. So now we're meeting with George Mercervi and the Cape Cod Commission to really find out how much that's going to cost. But we think it's a great idea to pursue. I mean, there's nothing worth why we wouldn't pursue that. The other bike path idea is it's on West Road. There's 3 projects about making that safer. The crossway, the 2 crosswalks, one by the bike path, and then when that street comes in, Salty Ridge. So there's 3 sort of different components that we're putting together. That job was estimated about 36 grand. Once again, we have to go back and see how much it is. The police department is all in favor of working on that, because although they fixed it somewhat and made it wider, I have still been there and there's kids sitting on the side with their parents. They don't know which way to go. So that's another one that we're very interested in pursuing. And those would be the 2 things we are going to work on this year. No other surveys, no other, engineering studies, just focus on getting those done. And then the other few things that had come up is bike racks in the OCT areas. There were just 10 bike racks that were approved, but they had to be on town property. OCT is interested in getting bike racks. They provided a list of between 8 and 10 locations they would put them in. And we are looking at doing some of those nice, cool looking round ones, not holding a lot of things, but built into where the environment is for the bike racks, and maybe even a picnic table. So Steve Gass, who's on the board, and Steve O'Grady, they're both on board. So we have a meeting tomorrow, and then they'll take it to their board to look at putting some bike racks there. The other idea that the library and the OCT was very excited about was Morgan's idea. And since she's running a full-time operation where she is, and I have a lot of spare time, I'm going to lead it, but get her input. But the storybook trail has a lot of legs. The librarian knows everything about it, how many pages, what sort of books. They're really excited. And they want to put it on a trail where you can access it if you're elderly, because there's grandparents, or you could take a stroller. And they're saying that age is 9 and below. Kids above 9 are not going to walk down a storybook trail. With the OCT, we're going to meet tomorrow. They're interested. Brewster has one. It's getting a lot of usage and just expanding our outside time. So those were everything I worked on. And something else came up, which Tracy, maybe you could think about. I got a couple of calls about looking at the bandstand. And they're saying they're all into the basketball court. But if we're going to look at the basketball court on Eldridge, why not also go after the bandstand at the same time? And it was in the Cross document a few years ago, and Ann had brought that up of replacing it. So if we're going to go big, and Tom, and you're going to meet with, Ron and Tom, maybe see also, can they incorporate fixing the bandstand if they're going to be doing something at Eldridge anyway. And I had about 5 people saying to me, we can have events there, we could do things. And if we're going to be focused on Eldridge, let's just see if we can go bigger. So I said, I'm not taking it on. I have enough, but if,
Yes,
so
and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that, I like the idea of focusing on that area too, because it's already so central and so well used in different ways. So it makes sense to continue to do as much as we can there. Anne, did you have something?
I was just going to add, in terms of the bandstand, there is another committee who said some months ago that they were looking at the bandstand and working on renovating. Could it have been the cultural committee? I don't know. Does anybody know who that is? But that may be a collaboration if we wanted to get into that.
Joan, I'd be happy to step in with the storybook. I just need a couple more weeks to get feel under control, and then I'd be happy to help.
You're muted.
I'm totally fine. I'll start the meetings and hand it to you as soon as you're ready. I'm not. Ann, do you want me to check out the cultural committee, I can ask them.
Sure.
Or Joan, if you want to send me a contact, I'm happy to reach out too.
Yeah, I was just gonna look online and see. Okay,
Okay.
Great.
I think Joanne Keeley or Kylie is with the cultural district. She also does the old firehouse stuff. I have an email and a phone number that I can shoot to both of you.
great.
Great.
That would be
So
great.
Tracy,
thank you.
you'll handle it then? in your
Yep, I'm
conversation?
happy to
Great.
do that. Mhm.
Okay. And in the cross document that Ann had sent, I know there was some dollars in there already. I don't know if it's 400 or, but rebuilding it, it wasn't like they couldn't fix it.
Right. Yeah, that was 2014 numbers.
Right.
Just to say, yeah.
Do the
Like me to talk about kayaks.
Yes, I just have one quick, do the Firebirds have any role to play in the bandstand?
So the Firebirds, what I heard from, maybe it was Tom, someone from the town. We own the property. The Firebirds actually don't own the property.
Right.
And they're actually, their outfield is bigger than the outfield at the Red Sox Stadium, which I wasn't gonna, at Fenway. So there's actually room there. You would still have to talk to them, but is like one, and Evan's nodding his head, so Evan, you probably know, it's like the longest outfield there is. So there's actually more room to still be legitimate there. It'd probably be someone you want to talk to, but no one that has to approve it.
I
from
was just
what
wondering
told.
because I know they use the bandstand building, right? Yeah, they like that's those rooms underneath are Firebirds. Just in terms of finding other partners who would have a
Right.
vested interest in wanting to see the bandstand improved, they
Great.
might. If we get Firebirds games and clinic back, I can. I'm happy to ask. Okay. Anne, did you want to give a kayak update?
Sure. Kudos to Joan. My update isn't as upscale, but so I have begun by going around to landings and other sites and doing some narrated video for myself and thinking about places for kayak racks. I've also had a lengthy conversation with Nate Sears, and he is very enthusiastic, but he would say his department, because they're accustomed to administrating moorings and that sort of thing, he said he would be very happy to administer a kayak rack reservation program. But he would ask us or people designated by us to develop the protocol, everything from the fee to how it's done. He strongly recommended that we develop a group very similar to the Seacall Farm Group. I don't know much about it, but this group administers the plots and is sure that everything is going smoothly and does some monitoring and enforcement, but also is a friendly body to make things go well. And he said that his department, he's really not interested in enforcing, but would participate in developing. Safety is obviously a big concern for him. And he's doesn't want people to use the kayak racks as just a storage opportunity, which many people seem to do. And he talked a bit about Ryan Birch, who's in Brewster, they've developed a program that tries to avoid that phenomena of just getting the kayaks off your yard and into the town racks. I talked to Scott, whose last name I forgot, who is Natural Resources in Eastham. And they are happy with their program. I didn't go into details about cost, but there's I've downloaded some things online, which are very detailed, both for Brewster and Eastham, about if you have a kayak and you use the town, how you get a space and that sort of thing. He said that the lottery system that they used this year, actually because of COVID, was far superior to their first come, first serve. So I have a sense that there's a number of things we can learn, since we are, like a few other things, the last town to have kayak racks in this area. We can learn from the other departments. Pending is a conversation with Becky Rosenfeld, who's head of recreation and Wellfleet. And I'll probably talk to Ryan Birch in detail and also start to generate costs. I think what I'm going to need from us, the committee, as we think about putting this together as an application, is do we go for the whole enchilada, so to speak, or do we go incrementally and choose some sites? There are many places that are appropriate for kayak racks. And how big should we go? So what I'd like to do is get a sense, the per capita use in other towns, to get a feeling for how many we should think about. The other thing, and this is relevant to Joan and bike racks, there are a couple of places where water access is very popular. Parking is a premium. If there were kayak racks, for instance, at River Road or at Meeting House Pond, paired with bike racks, that would be a really excellent duo, that people would have their kayaks there. They wouldn't have to drive, they could bike. And so the area could be used without competition. The other pending conversation, because he talked a lot about it during the Simpson Island discussions, is Mon Cochran. He has been very supportive of the idea of helping townspeople kayak out to Simpson Island. So there's some pending conversations I'd like to have. The other thing to think about is I've been looking, there's a program called Massachusetts Grant Watch. So I went ahead and got a subscription. I think there's going to be monies appropriate to things like kayak racks if I keep looking. And there was the suggestion that if we bundle money from other sources, the CPC likes that. Why wouldn't they? That would be good. I did ask Nate just offhand, did he think that some of the businesses that rent kayaks, would they want a joint venture, pay for racks? We'd give them some space on the racks. And that way they could send their clients out and have their name on the racks or whatever. He said that's certainly doable, but it starts to get into difficulty with liability, and the town council would have to weigh in. And I unilaterally thought, not such a good idea. The idea is to keep it simple. But if some of you said, on the other hand, you thought it might be worth pursuing, I would revisit it. So that's where I am so far.
And I think it's great because I always heard that people were against it. The fact that, and I'm part of Seacole Farms, and I could tell you the hardest thing is people just leaving their farms untended, and you could talk to them as nicely as you want, but having all those protocols in place and doing a lottery, I think is great. And I'll talk to you about how many bike racks we should hold aside. I mean, they're not that expensive bike racks, and it's all about installing them. How many slots do you think? Yeah, how are you going to figure out how many kayak rack slots we should have?
Well, I guess I'd talk to the various towns. Brewster, I don't know how many they have. I know they have 60 at Paynes Creek and a number at Ponds. That seems like a lot. Eastham has nowhere near as much. The only place I know about in Eastham is Great Pond. But I think I'll just do some comparisons and ask those guys, do they have a waiting list? That kind of thing.
And is it any resident or is it full-time residents only? Do you know?
Well, both Eastham and Eastham, they don't restrict. It's anyone, and it's a lottery. I think I did download, but I can't remember all the details. They have very detailed, if you're this, then that. And so there may be some different pricing.
Okay, thank you. Before we hear from the next person, Mia, are you still there?
Yep, I'm here. My microphone was spazzing. What's up?
No, that's okay. Could you bring Alan Harrison in as a panelist, please? Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone, another update? Kyle was gonna look into Conservation Commission and trails and the pickleball courts, and Evan with the rubberized track.
Yeah, so just with the pickleball courts, got a correspondence back from Alan today just to update some numbers and a little bit more detail for the application. Should be easily ready for the next meeting. And I'll let Carol talk about contact with Conscom and the plan there.
Okay. Thank you, Evan.
Hey,
Any
everybody.
news?
So I've been emailing back and forth with Ann Teft at the NASA offices, and I have a meeting scheduled with Superintendent Tom Conrad this week coming up Tuesday, September 22nd at 7 in the morning to discuss the NASA Regional Middle School Track Improvement Project. And I told him, introduced who I was and what I was looking into as part of the committee. And Ann Teft wrote back that Tom has all the information I could possibly need and then some, and would like to meet with me socially distanced with masks on in the conference room to discuss. So this Tuesday, 7 o'clock, I'll meet with him. If anybody else is interested in joining, just let me know and I'll shoot a note to Ann. But my primary objectives for that meeting is I had like 5 questions for him. What research has already been done? What do they expect the cost to be? Who did the work at the high school? How long ago was that work done, et cetera? And then just kind of move out on trying to acquire some cost estimates from local companies. And based on last night's meetings, I haven't done any coordination with Tom Daly or with the town at all. All my coordination's been through Ann to get to Tom as a starting point. So with that.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll need town participation, Evan, since it's school grounds.
Okay, great.
So you're probably heading right down the right direction to get it all taken care of.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm excited about the possibility. If anybody has any input you think I should consider or questions I should ask, or if you want to join for that meeting, just let me know.
I guarantee it's going to be Tom's favorite meeting of the week.
Great, thank you. Okay, that wraps up CPC updates. The next item on the agenda is our Zoom preparation for the community Zoom on October 1st. So I think we need to come away with two things. One is outreach and how we're going to let people know that it's happening. And then two is the format that, or the structure of the Zoom itself. Most of us at this point have been on a lot of Zooms. So, you know, and seen different formats and something, you know, whether the people are called on to ask questions or whether questions are pre-submitted or they go into the chat area and are responded to that way. So I'm wondering if anyone has seen a model that they think would be useful for us to use as we plan our own, or things to avoid.
Oh, I have one question though. Do we have a time? Because on October 1st, there's a CPC meeting. So I was just wondering if things are overlapping and which ones are overlapping town-wise.
We had said 5:30.
Okay.
How does that work with CPC?
Right. CPC is at 5 o'clock. Is it CPC is at 4:30 that day.
So what do we think? Is that,
It's only
We
me, so
wanted-
it's fine. I'm just
Okay.
was trying to figure out the other meetings going on and if the select people would be there or not. Just make sure we have MEF, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, I'll double check with Meth on the time. Maybe it would be useful to start by thinking about what we had hoped to do in March, which was present the survey results. And then we were going to do breakout groups around different things, you know, different parts of the survey results. So something talking about youth recreation, and then other people talking about, you know, the kayaking and different elements of a recreation department. So since breakout groups aren't going to be possible, Morgan?
You can do breakout rooms on Zoom.
Oh, God. Oh, all right.
And
Well,
I'm not an expert at it, but you could definitely keep a similar format if you wanted to try. I could do a little bit more research for you. I bet Sharon knows about them as well.
so are we thinking that would be
I'm just throwing it out there. If you
Yeah.
wanted to keep a similar format, there's probably a way to do it.
I've been in a
Thoughts?
Zoom where they did breakout groups, and you folks may have too. I think, Tracy, the concern about the format is having a host who, you know, it's hard enough for you today, and you're doing a great job entering people and so.
right?
But someone who's dedicated to being a air traffic controller, so to speak, and not necessarily participating in the content. And a breakout, I think, is challenging to pull off. You have to essentially, I think, have it well designed ahead of time. So
Right, because it's not
I
as easy as walking to a different part of the room.
No,
Yeah.
you would need somebody sort of almost to manage that we would need somebody with those skills to manage that piece for us. Otherwise, I think you're limited to basically showing basically you're going to share your screen, you're going to show a slideshow, and then you're just going to do a Q&A. I mean, that's the limits, I think, of the technology. But unless, I don't know, I could be wrong.
What I would want us to do is to briefly now say what we hope to end up with after we do this.
Thank you. That sounds like a great way to go. I'll take hands. What would you like to end up? Evan?
Yeah, so I think at a pretty basic level, it's just thanks to all for participating in the survey, letting their voice be heard, sharing the high level survey results, and then potentially going through a rundown of what we just did of the different projects we have in works that we're seeking funding for, and tie those action steps back to survey results, and then a brief explainer on, the work we want to put towards a feasibility study for a community center as a bigger, longer range project. So this is what you told us. This is what we're doing to try to implement what you told us. This is a big target of opportunity we hope to achieve. Come out to town meeting and vote to support it. And then Q&A. Hey, what did we miss? What do you wish we had asked? What other information is on your mind? And I think that would make for a pretty successful event.
Thank you. Someone else? Anne?
I wonder if it's a time to enlist specific names for people who wanted to participate. I wouldn't mind asking if somebody, for instance, was gung-ho about kayaks and kayaking, if they could join me in asking the right questions and thinking about numbers and places. If you thought that was appropriate.
My own thought would be that we want to give people an opportunity to do a little more than they were able to do in the survey. And if they're showing up for a Zoom, there's probably a level of interest and enthusiasm for doing that. So whether it's having the opportunity to ask a question or having the opportunity to connect with someone and get going on a project, I think that would make for a satisfying experience for people who are participating.
I think
we want them to walk away feeling like they've been heard, but also that the survey was step one, and so this is the next level of engagement.
Yeah, I think Evan summarized beautifully, really talking about what we got from them, and that it's going to, as we were saying in March, it's going to turn into action.
Mhm.
And we want the action to be guided by them too.
Mhm.
I think thinking of a way, I don't really have an idea for this yet, is that managing that feedback. And if so, it's like it's asking the right questions, but also being prepared for some of the feedback that we might get, and knowing that it might not be necessarily the feedback we want to get either. So just sort of coming up with a way to manage that. And I don't have that in my head yet, but coming up with some sort of format that can help us manage those things. And it might be fine, but I always like to think of sort of like what the worst case might be, and what might come at us.
Mhm.
So I have a question. To that point, two things. Did the email go out to the recipients, to the people that submitted? Because I didn't get one, and I did submit a response to the survey. So I didn't get that email.
The email went out to people on Alan's mailing list.
So I think you
People who have
missed
signed up for
people.
recreation.
I think you missed people who submitted the survey. Me, my age sort of people did not get that email. If there was any way to send out to everyone that responded, I think that would be good, because otherwise you might just get people who have kids that are in the school program. And what we're doing now is so beyond that. And people are so thrilled to hear what we're doing is so inclusive of all ages and all locations. So I would think the first thing you want to do is try to get that email out broader somehow.
Yeah,
Whether or not it's going back to respondents. But also I would ask before the meeting if people can submit questions that they want answered. Because Morgan, you're right. We're going to get tons of feedback, and they'll be typing, and then what are you doing with it? I don't know if we can round it all up.
We should record the meeting too.
Yeah.
Will happen.
So in terms of distribution of the survey results, it was something Kyle and Ann put the letter together with a synopsis. We didn't collect email addresses with the survey. So that's where that gets tricky. I did some posting of it on Facebook, but we're limited
Right.
because we don't have, so I had hoped, so we sort of walked around like if there was a place to post it and then we could send people the link. But that communication part is a challenge, and it's something we have to figure out both for the letter and for letting people know about the Zoom itself.
So can we send the results to our own email list and post it any social media ourselves that we have access to? What I'd like to do is I would put a little cover note to my own email list saying that the community Zoom is X time and watch what to get the Zoom, watch the town website to get the Zoom address. Are we set on 5:30 or is that still open?
We have a Zoom set up for 5:30.
Is it possible to push it back a little bit later?
My guess would be yes. And I can check on that.
I know, so with the school year having started now, I may be the only one in this boat. And now that I drop my kids off in the morning, my work hours have shifted even later. And then when I get home, I'm about to fall over if I don't eat dinner. So my vote is a little bit later.
Okay. Morgan?
What if we did some sort of presentation that was recorded and you were given a link and you watched the presentation of like somebody like Kyle going over the survey, much like he did the other night, but a little bit more in depth. Because I thought that was great. Or maybe, do with a duo with Tracy or something. And you had like an actual conversation about the survey results, but it was recorded and you sent out a link and people watched the link. And then we offered maybe 2 Q&As. Maybe we did one in the mornings for maybe we would attract a different population, and one in the evenings, and we might. So we're offering like 2 different kinds of Q&A sessions after they've all been presented with the same information. Just a thought.
That's
Great
it.
ideas, Morgan.
Would we still want the pre-submitted questions or?
Yes.
Yes.
I think if we could get some pre-submitted questions, then we could make sure to answer those as part of the recorded video that we put out, and then also have a mechanism to, if you have more questions, please submit them to fill in the blank contact information, and we can be better prepared for live Q&A sessions or continue to put out recorded products that answers folks' questions. Multiple ways to skin the cat on this one.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that the back to school Zooms had pre-submitted questions, and then you could email other questions in, and those were responded to by email, which is another good way to manage things as they come in, while still, being responsive, while still not having people feel that their questions never got answered.
For what it's worth, on the letter, it does say if you have comments or questions at this time, and then I put my email address. I have not as yet received comments or questions.
There's also, I think there's a possibility too that there aren't as many questions out there as interest in getting involved in a project. So I don't want to I think that that idea of signing people up for things that they might be interested in is a important thing to keep as sort of a central goal. And maybe that's another way of managing the questions, just to sort of not have those be the feature, but to have the feature be the survey results and opportunities to get involved.
What is your sense of people wanting to get together for a Zoom? I'm just thinking I've been trying to assemble a different kind of group for a Zoom, and they're sort of half-hearted interested. It seems as though lives are now starting to be, people had empty calendars, and now kind of things are happening, and trying to focus. So I'm wondering if we dilute, I think it's a great idea to have 2 times, in the sense of meeting people where they are in their schedules, but diluting the audience.
You
If-
also lose the excitement and the momentum when the group's smaller. You're right. There's something about a larger conversation.
I wonder if it's, given the current circumstances with people having a lot of Zooms and people getting busier as we head into fall, if we might be able to broaden the reach of people who can see what, who can engage in that way by thinking less, maybe we move away from a Zoom and think about what Morgan said with something pre-recorded. People can have up until such and such date to submit a question. Then this will, a link will be sent out or can be accessed. I'm not sure how we do that part by this date, and any remaining questions or comments can be emailed in and will be responded to in a timely fashion. It doesn't give us the, dynamics of a Zoom, but it might be something that if October 1st at 5 or at 6 or 6, if people are exhausted, or if, kids are, whatever the circumstances are, it might be something that the more flexible we can be, what we lose in a exciting event, we might make up for by just being able to reach a lot more people.
I think it's Morgan's idea of a taped, and I can see you and Kyle kind of interviewing each other to make it interesting.
Like a talk show or something.
Yeah. And that people can access the survey results by watching.
Mhm.
And then stirring up the questions, whether there's a Zoom, with a small group of people or not. But that piece I think is brilliant.
I think the hard thing with Zoom, I've been on some Zooms where there might be 30 people, 6 people talk, because it's hard. And then they would say, do you know how to raise your hand? And the amount of people who would go like this versus clicking the little button, and, and maybe we just want to trial it with some people we know to say, let's see if we got 30 people, how would it feel? How would it look? But, I like Morgan's idea, because I do think that if you just concede at your own time and then maybe give some feedback, and we could try a big Zoom, but I don't find them personally as fun as maybe other people. I'll use that word. That's exciting.
If we're comfortable thinking about that video format, or I guess if we're moving in that direction, are there any voices who would rather stick to the original plan of a Zoom? Or any concerns about what we might be losing by not doing a Zoom that we want to make sure we can address?
I'm thinking maybe we do both. We keep the, that Zoom October 1st, but generate, and so most of us can be there. We can replay the video beforehand if, for people who haven't seen it yet. And each of us could have some questions we got from our friends or from the email responses that your interview generated, and just, it would be an added piece. And so what if not many come, we can talk to each other.
Okay, Kyle, does that sound like something that you would want to work on?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
I like the idea. I think it's a great idea. I think it gives families and people that are too busy a lot of opportunity to participate without having to be at a specific place at a specific time.
Okay, so why don't I'll coordinate with Kyle on some sort of video. If anyone else would like to participate in that, I'm not sure what format we'll use, but I'm sure someone can help us. And then why don't we plan on an October 1st video that can also be seen other, so a video that can be shared and viewed as, as people's schedule allow, but also some live event on October 1st where the video is shown, and then well, we're still thinking pre-submitted questions. I'm wondering what the live element gives us. If it's a video and then pre-submitted questions, what do we do with the people who show up for the Zoom?
Give them an opportunity to ask questions live.
Beyond,
Right. If
okay.
they took the time to commit to be there live and to watch the video, and they want their voice to be heard and ask a question live, or they just missed the announcement about submit your questions in advance, no harm, no foul for them to ask them live, and we handle it on the fly.
All right, I'm putting Evan in front of, Evan can handle the management of the questions then.
Happy to do that.
Okay. Then let's talk, if people are comfortable with that, about outreach in terms of letting people know both about submitted questions and about the date of the Zoom itself. So I know that, we could send something out through the recreation department with people who are registered on that website. I could do something for the elementary school and the middle school and the high school through that, through the app that, through the Parent Square app. But moving beyond that, ideas about how to get this out.
I can maybe ask the Friends of the Library. I know someone on the board, they have a very big list. That would just get a different crowd altogether.
Yeah.
But anyone's list that we can maybe share like that could be good. And I don't know if the senior center does an email.
Yeah, I would think Judy Wilson could help with that.
Yeah, she's right. I've been talking with her, and I'll ask her to send it out.
And are there any lists that you're aware of, like for the conservation groups, like OPC and?
I will send it to OPC and ask them to send it for their newsletter. That's a good idea.
I can ask OCT tomorrow when I'm meeting with them, the Conservation Trust, if they could put something in.
Great.
For email questions or questions that are emailed in, do we need a deadline or how are we handling those questions? Anne?
So first of all, since my town website email is used, my name is on the letter. I'm
Right.
happy to be the one where
Okay,
questions can be sent.
thank you.
But can I ask you about our kind of imagined timeline? That if we are going to send the link of your video. It's October 1st isn't far away.
Right.
Are we going to try to send the link before October 1st or have it at least by then?
I would think that even though we're turning down the excitement, that can be the premiere. The October 1st could be, if you want to see it live, then, or, be among the first people to see the exciting Recreation Advisory Committee survey results video, then you can tune in on October 1st, or you can catch the rerun another time. But I think that's, I think any sooner than that, I think 2 weeks is probably still a pretty, steep goal. Any sooner than that,
Right,
I don't see the benefit of doing it any sooner than that.
right. Keep it simple.
So that said, getting back to the issue of submitting questions, we will need those questions in order to make the video, or at least most of them. So whether,
I think oh, I'm sorry, Ann, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Evan.
or are we just going to do the questions live?
Well, I think through any advertising campaign we do to say on October 1st, tune in to this link to see a video of survey results. You can say, if you have questions you would like answered, please submit them to this email address no later than this date and time, right? We're going to capture some questions that way. I don't know that the questions are needed to make the video a success. The video is mostly going to be focused on survey results, and I would submit potentially some status updates on current irons in the fire, current projects we're working to try to secure funding for. And then if that's all the video is, I think that's a tremendous success. And then
Okay.
you capture the live Q&A. But if
Okay.
anybody happens to email questions in and you want to, we want to answer it by way of the video, then that's a bonus.
Okay.
My
I
two
think-
cents.
Yeah, I think that trying to answer too many questions in the video would just lead to, we'd have to get the questions from Anne and figure out the answers.
Yeah,
And
no,
this is all,
yeah, keep it simple.
I think it would, okay. Simple is good. Okay.
Can I throw out an idea?
Mhm.
We have big support from Tom Daly and John Kelly, like all the administration. I'm wondering if they would be willing to do a little snippet before the video or after the video of supporting all the efforts of the rec committee and of the rec department, because they're really behind it this year. And
Mhm.
just a little idea. Or if they're willing to send something out on our behalf, but
Mhm.
Tracy,
Yes.
we can also create an event on Facebook which would have the announcement so that anybody who has a Facebook account would then be able to click on interested, and maybe we could put the link there.
Okay. Okay. The only other, well, not the only other thing, but are we also, I'm not, I can do a quick flyer and get it out to people, like a PDF. Is that the easiest thing, so that they're, so when Anne's reaching out to people and Joan, so that there's one uniform
Good.
piece
Yes.
of information? So I can do that. I can do that this week. Okay. So I'll be in touch with Kyle about a video and finding the best person to help us with that. And then
I'm happy to
I'll
help.
be in touch.
with that.
Oh, great.
I'm happy to help with that video as well. So the two of you don't have to take it all on yourselves.
Thank you. I'm just not, yeah, I think the technology is there. We'll just have to get someone to guide us through. And okay, any other and so other than that, it will be a matter of outreach and keeping in touch as the date nears and being ready for October 1st. Yes, okay. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Hi, Alan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. We're ready to hear from you with the Recreation Director's report.
So recreation, we've had a couple of meetings with the Board of Health, and we have finally gotten the go-ahead to start soccer and youth tennis. So those are going to start. Soccer is going to start October 3rd, I believe. It's a Saturday. Tennis is going to start the last week of September. Those are the activities right now that we can get done with COVID-19 and the rules and regulations. Soccer is on a moderate level, so we won't be competing with the other towns. It'll be every town is going to do their in-house soccer. So we'll have clinic style and in-house scrimmage games for the kids in the K through grade 6. Tennis, which was very popular in the summer, we're running that as an instructional program, and that's going to be 1 day a week. It'll get us late September through the last week of October before daylight savings. So I think we got 5 weeks. We're going to do a 2nd, 3rd grade level, a 4th and 5th grade level, and a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level. So that's what we're doing for the kids for the fall. Our goal was to wait until at least school started, so that the blasts, we can start with the blasts next Wednesday through the school. Our adult programming is going to be limited to outdoor fitness activities because we can't use any in any town building, senior center, because they're still closed. So we're going to be doing some fitness for adults and seniors, which is what we've normally done. Indoors, we're going to be doing them outdoors. And those will run probably through the middle of November. It's going to be during the daytime, so we're not worried about daylight savings time. And then after that, we'll see how it goes with COVID and the schools as far as the indoor activities that we do, the gymnasiums for basketball and things like that. But it's very good to have the Board of Health support us in terms of giving us the okay. So the notices for the people that go out for sports who sign up will get all the information about the rules and regulations. Parents that go to events, if they're going to watch soccer, need to wear masks. Participants need to have masks, social distancing, all of that we did for the summer, we will repeat for the fall activities. Adult programming, same thing. Adult programming is a little bit different because it's fitness, not sports. So if it's masks off, then it's 14 feet per person space-wise. So we'll space our activities out on the fields. If they are wearing masks, which they can do, but most people, if they're working out, would prefer, I think, not to wear a mask. It can be 6 feet, but we got the space outside for that. So that's pretty much it. Doing a lot of Zooming. I've been on Zooming and webinars. The state runs a ton of informational webinars on COVID updates, rules and regulations, thoughts and ideas from people on how to do programming for adults and youth following the COVID rules. So spending some time doing that.
Thank you. Questions for Alan? Anne? Anne, you're muted.
Thank you. Ellen, I've been involved in Cape Cod Children's Place for their opening and realize the protocols for the parents dropping off and picking up are pretty specific. Have you had any trouble this summer with the expectations that drop off and pick up with parents or getting them to comply?
No. The basic reason I feel is that we flooded people with information. Signage is up, and then posted signages, posted information at the sites, restricting people to certain areas, not letting them into the buildings. And like say, for example, on a week of an activity on Sunday, we would send out an email to all the participants reminding them about the child needing a mask and, you know, parents essentially not encouraging them not to get out of a vehicle. If they did, they needed a mask, and it went extremely well.
Good.
Anne?
I have another question. Ellen, do you know if the middle school, for instance, is going to need to use the gym for academic instruction?
I don't believe they are. So I would say no. That from what I've been gathering from the people at the school that I've spoken with, they are not.
I do know that they're trying to limit the amount of outside, like parents aren't even really allowed into the buildings and things like that. I would be very surprised if they allowed programming from anybody outside the school into the schools at all this year. I would be very surprised.
They will absolutely not allow anything. I have just probably run 1 or 2 per sort of season, 1 day a week, 2 days a week at the elementary school, just trying to run an after school activity, i.e. soccer from 2 to 3 o'clock, where we have a group of kids who would sign up, and then when the day is over, those students are dismissed to the gym to meet me for an activity. And that's a definite no-no. There's nothing. There's the access to the buildings are tighter than they have been in the past because of the COVID, just people coming into the building. So that's part of the Board of Health, and we just said, you know, let's not get involved. Let's just let them do their thing. They have these cohorts that they've set up as far as students staying together, and let them work that out. And hopefully there'll be no issues with that. And as time moves along, things will get better.
Thank you. Anything else?
Tracy.
Okay. Yes,
Tracy.
Alan. Yes.
I just wanted to, I was kind of muted earlier, so I couldn't speak, but there was a discussion, I believe, about the bandstand, Eldridge. So
yes,
just a couple of things, and I didn't know if I caught the whole conversation, but one, the Firebirds do use that for their locker room. So
right.
during the season that they're here, they have a small locker room area where they can leave their equipment and their uniforms. There may be a washer and dryer there that they use. There's always there's also the public restrooms. But I was just hearing someone mention about the size of the playing field, and somebody said, I don't remember who, it's the longest center field of any baseball field anywhere, and it's probably true. The reason for that is because in order to have a full-size soccer field there, you need to go from the center field fence out towards the infield. So to cut that off, to make it smaller, and I'm not sure if somebody thought of that, would impede on a full-size soccer field being there. And the middle school uses that full-size quite a bit. Just
Yeah, that's coming back to me now. I remember hearing that.
So it is coming back to me too. So the school actually probably would not allow a bigger size bandstand because I think do they technically own that field? Kyle?
no.
No,
The
who owns
park-
the town?
The town isn't, now we're getting into, I think it's the Children of Orleans
The
or
Children
something.
of Orleans, right?
Yeah.
And so the reason that the bandstand, I think, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, can't really be bigger is that, and it's a huge issue at the middle schools, they don't have enough playing fields for all the kids to play sports at the end of the day. There's not enough soccer fields for both girls and boys to play. So I think we need to sort of tread lightly there. We don't want to be taking things away from our, I think we need to do probably a little more research on that.
Yeah, I was just saying it in terms of, and that's good to know, Alan. Someone had just said it was the biggest field. Now that makes sense. But the footprint of the current bandstand is not in the way of anything, correct?
Correct.
Maybe not.
I mean, it'll still be
We'll
looked
look into
into,
it.
but I'm just saying, I
Yeah.
didn't even know it was a bandstand there, but that's
But
very
if
good
we
to
did
know.
something, if it was just a remodeling of what's already there as opposed to an expansion, that might be a better avenue. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for that, Alan. I heard that somewhere long ago, but forgotten. Okay. Items for future agenda. One thing that I would like to put on the future agenda, both in terms of the ultimate, or maybe not ultimate, the broader goal of a 5-year plan for the Recreation Committee, and also thinking about what Andrea Reed said last night when we met with the Select Board about coming up with a philosophy and a guiding vision, and that the partnerships that we could foster if we can agree on one guiding vision. And so sort of thinking about those two things. I think probably the guiding vision comes first and then the 5-year plan, but I think that's something that we should start thinking about now that we're a little over a year in. I think we're ready for that next step of a broader goal. Other agenda ideas?
We probably should bring up the CPC because those applications will be due in November and the forms coming out in October. And so a quick roundup maybe might be good.
Yep. Good. We'll also be approaching town meeting, so I think we'll want to be checking in on the feasibility study and outreach, and if there's time for, what we can do in those remaining 2 weeks or so. That'll be we'll want to be able to take advantage of that time, of that window between our meeting and town meeting, to get to people who might just be starting to think about town meeting as it nears. Anne?
You're on mute, Anne.
A recap of our
Mhm.
wonderful Zoom meeting preceded by the video link and all that we learned.
Mhm. Great. Okay, any other ideas? Feel free to send them my way. Okay, so I think we're in good shape. I'll take a motion to adjourn if people are feeling ready. It's been a long week and a long 6 months.
Second.
Oops, my dog is ready to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Motion to,
Second.
Okay, great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
We'll all be in touch soon. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.